Hi everyone, welcome to another Sunday Smiles. My name is Ebtihal Badawi. I'm an expressionistic artist and a cultural explorer. I use my art to build bridges between different people and culture, and that's why I create Sunday Smiles to continue building bridges. And today we have a special guest, Tammy. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
I'm not putting my camera on because I'm eating and I don't want to eat in front of you.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
You're here with us. Yes, that's the most important thing. So, Tammy, can you tell us more about you?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? Okay, well, I am a mother and a grandmother living in the city of Pittsburgh. Why is that such a hard question to answer? And I always talk about other people and other stuff, but it's really hard for me to talk about myself. I moved here to Pittsburgh with my family a little over 40 years ago, actually, probably a little more than a little. In 1978, we moved here. My dad used to be a coal miner in West Virginia. And coal mining started getting pretty rough, and coal mines started to close in the late 70s. And times were pretty tough, and he wanted something better for his family. And we found our way here to Pittsburgh in search of a job in the steel mill. The steel mills in Pittsburgh were one of the best blue collar jobs around. You could earn a salary good enough to take care of your family. And he wanted that. And we got here. And the day we arrived, my dad realized that the job that he thought was here waiting for him wasn't. And we ended up homeless, living in our car in downtown Pittsburgh.
Oh my God.
It was pretty rough. He and my mother struggled that first month we were here. Unfortunately, people had noticed that we were living in this car, and my brother and I were taken away by Children and Youth Services and to a foster home until my parents could get on their feet and find housing, find jobs to get us back. And luckily for us, alhamdulillah, we were able to be reunited. But our family really was never the same after that. My mother was not happy. She did not want to move here in the first place. And so she really had a hard time forgiving my father for bringing us to a city unprepared and making her lose her children, even if it was for a brief period of time. She really had a hard time with that. And unfortunately, they divorced about a year later. My mom became a single parent after, in a strange city where she knew absolutely nobody. And all of a sudden, she's a single parent trying to keep two kids together. And it was hard. It was hard. And because this show is called Sunday Smiles, I don't want I'm not telling you this story because I want you guys to be depressed. But I do talk about
It is empowering, Tammy. It's empowering. When I heard your story the first time, it really give me like hope. Give me like that's why I am so thankful that you are sharing your story with us.
Yeah, and I share the story mainly because of the work that I do, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about the work in a little bit. But I think it's really important for me to be as transparent and open as I can about my own experiences because they were hard. It was hard. It was hard. I always tell that story about what I consider to be one of the first traumas I think I experienced as a young person, as a small child, because it sort of set the stage for the rest of my life. And as somebody who studies trauma and studies poverty and does work in the field of everything I do from my personal mission to my professional mission is developing and creating programming and opportunities to really help people get beyond poverty and to help heal the trauma that they experienced in surviving in poverty. And that's just so important to me, because I spent so much of my life from that point on trying to escape, first of all, the financial aspect of poverty, but even more importantly, the emotional and psychological damage that was done along that journey. And I think it's important for people to understand it, because I don't think that you can become the person that God wants you to become when you're trapped in trauma and when you're trapped in sort of the mental cage that I think trauma can keep you in. I think it's important to revisit it and learn from it and grow from it. But I think you have to address it and acknowledge it so that you can move to the next stage in your life. I think we are always told, especially in this society is not kind to impoverished people. We've been taught that people should be ashamed of living in poverty, that they had to have done something. Well, if they would have made better choices. And it's so much bigger than that. You know, it's bigger than that. There's systems, there's policies, there's history, there's a lot of things that get people in poverty and also perpetuate and how long people stay. And so I think it's important to get people thinking about themselves differently. I think experiencing poverty can affect your self-esteem and how you view yourself and how you view your surroundings and your environment and your community. And that has an impact on how you see opportunity. It has an impact on your perception of what you can do and what you can achieve. So in my work, which now I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Catapult Greater Pittsburgh. And I also have my own business as a consultant, helping to teach people about the psychology of poverty and how long-term exposure to poverty impacts people mentally and emotionally, and how we should be developing programming so that it resonates with people who have had those experiences, because it does change how you see everything. You know, it changes what you see as an opportunity. You know, just imagine somebody who either through their experiences or even having people tell them, this is all you're ever going to be, right? All you're ever going to be is somebody in poverty who, you know, is living hand to mouth, and the things that you see for other people are not for you. You start to sort of internalize that, and it comes out in how you seek opportunity. It comes out in how you develop relationships. It comes out in almost every aspect of your life. It comes out in your relationship with money. And if it's not addressed, it doesn't matter how many opportunities present themselves, you won't ever see yourself being in those opportunities. So although, you know, as an organization, we do focus heavily on what we call economic justice, creating economic opportunities for people through first-time homeownership or through entrepreneurship and other opportunities. For me, our programming centers and is extremely focused on helping people do the work internally so that they can take advantage of those opportunities, so that they do see themselves in those spaces. And over the years, what I've learned from starting with myself, you know, I don't test anything out on anybody. And all of these ideas and all of these programs were really developed with myself in mind. What did I need when I was in my darkest time? What did I need to hear? What did I need somebody to do to show me that opportunity did exist for me beyond my current situation? You know, at the age of 22, I was 22 years old and I had 5 children as a single mother. You know, I was poor, I was uneducated. I did not see any other opportunity for me. I didn't see anything beyond what was currently happening in my life. And at that time, although, you know, now when I look back on it, I understand I was a very intelligent woman. You know, I could have probably gone to any college and done anything that I wanted to do, but I didn't see that for myself. And because I didn't see it for myself, I just insulated myself in whatever my current situation was. And it took a long time for me to see myself differently. And so I think a lot now, what could we be saying to people? What could we be presenting to people? How can we change how we offer programming so that people who are stuck in that place of, you know, low self-esteem or the inability to see themselves in a different space, what can we say? What can we do for them to show them that there's an abundance of opportunity, that there's an abundance, that they deserve those opportunities, that you are deserving regardless of your circumstances and regardless of where you come from, or regardless of the mistakes that you've made, that you deserve to continue to move forward and learn from those experiences and take those opportunities. So that is pretty much all I do all day, every day. It's extremely important to me. It is my life's work, because I just remember how dark it could get. And I know that there's a lot of people who are living in that darkness who deserve the light. They deserve so much more. And it really does a lot for my own healing to be operating in that space.
Thank you so much. So when can you share with us that moment that you saw in the middle of the darkness light? Who helped you see that there is light, you know, at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, so there never was just one thing, right? There never was just one person or one thing, but I'll tell you that the major shift in my life happened at a very dark time. As a mother of 5 children, I never saw myself going back to school or even working a job. How was I going to work a job? I didn't see how I was going to be able to get childcare for 5 children and get them all to school and myself go to work. I just didn't never saw how I would ever be able to do that. And so I settled. I settled for a life that started with me selling drugs, and being part of what I guess people would call being in a gang. And that's how I was feeding my family. That's what I saw for myself. I didn't see anything else being possible for me than that. And I got stuck. And eventually I got caught and I went to jail. And I was facing a pretty long jail sentence, a mandatory minimum sentence per Pennsylvania law, that was going to separate me from my children for an extended period of time. And it was terrifying. It was the only thing I cared about was making sure that my kids were okay. And that sounds crazy, you know, because how can you think that somebody cared about what happened to their children in the streets that live in this dangerous life? But really for me, I felt like that was my only option to care for them. That was my only option to provide for them. And but facing, you know, this thought that I'm going to lose them, they're going to be without me, I'm going to be locked away somewhere and I'm not going to know what's happening with them, was just it was unbearable. It was almost you know, it ate me up for the entire year that I waited to go to trial. I worried about this, but I also, hi Kitty, but I also spent that time waiting to go to trial, thinking about ways to better myself. I ended up enrolling in a school. I ended up getting a job. And even though I knew that, you know, there was the likelihood, a very high likelihood, according to my attorney, that I was going to go to jail when I went to court because of this mandatory minimum sentence, even though I had never been in trouble before. And I had all of these people who were willing to come and testify, you know, about what they thought I had the potential to do in a different kind of life. there was nothing, mandatory minimums were mandatory minimums at the time. And so about a year, none of these things happen the way that you see them happening on TV, right? It doesn't happen in an hour episode. It took about an hour. I'm sorry, not an hour, a year from the point that I got arrested to actually going in front of a judge and figuring out what my punishment would be. And the day that I went to court, I was prepared that I was going to jail because that's what my attorney told me was going to happen. And so I spent, the months leading up to my trial date preparing myself and preparing my children for me going to jail. That meant getting an affidavit, sort of transferring my parental rights to my best friend who was going to take my kids while I was gone. And just being, although it was such a weird time and everything felt so uncertain, it felt good that I was in school, I was enjoying school, I was working this job, and it finally felt like, oh, wait, I really can do this. I can have a different life. And it was bittersweet because I was learning that this was possible for me. But at the same time, it was all going to be taken away because I was going to prison. But it did feel good to know that finally, even though it was just that weird thing that I figured it out too late is how I felt. But I ended up going to court. And it was, for those of us that believe in God, the whole situation was like an out of body experience. It was like I knew something divine was happening that day. And I was terrified. If you've never been in a situation like this, it's really hard to explain. But walking into a courtroom knowing that you're going to jail is one of the most, I can't imagine anything more terrifying than that. And I went in ready to do what I needed to do. And the judge, I will never forget him. I actually just recently was reunited with one of his daughters because he had passed away, and I had always wanted an opportunity to go back to him and show him, that I survived the mess that I found myself in. But he, to just make a long story short, I don't know what happened. I do believe that God used him to save me. But instead of sending me to prison, he was able to get the case completely dismissed. And it was just an unbelievable moment because there was a district attorney that was in the courtroom who was adamant that I was going to jail that day. But his witnesses didn't show up somehow. Right? So we know somehow God made that happen. The witnesses did not show up to testify against me. And so instead of allowing, a break to allow the witnesses to show up or, to postpone it and get another day, the judge just dismissed the entire case. And I was able to walk out of there that day knowing that that was a gift from God, that man was giving me a chance. He never said a word to me, but he looked into my eyes and I knew what he was saying without saying anything was, I'm giving you a chance to get it together. So get it together. And that day I walked out of that courtroom determined that I was going to live a life that my children could be proud of, and that judge could be proud of, that he could be happy that he made a choice that was the right choice to give me another chance to get my life together. And I did, and I never looked back. And it wasn't easy. It was hard. There were many days where I had been evicted, days where I could not keep my utilities on, that I was always tempted. I always knew I can always go back to that lifestyle and be able to take care of our needs, but I never did. And it was a lot of hard work and a lot of crying and a lot of why me? And but over the years, it just kept getting better and I just worked a little harder. And as my children got older, it got a little easier. That wasn't a fun ride either, raising 5 kids on my own, especially when they all were teenagers at the same time. I thought I was going to go crazy, but we survived it. And not only did we survive it, we learned so much. I learned so much about what I was strong enough to do and what I was capable of. And eventually the power of God. And, I found Islam, and it, I'm just so grateful, even for the tough things. I'm grateful because those experiences made me who I am. And I believe that I was taken on that path so that I could share what I know and what I learned with other people. And so that's my way of giving back what was given to me. So over the course of the years, I would say there was no one thing or one person. It was a collection of things and a collection of people that really got me to a space where I found out this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is why you experienced what you experienced. It is for a purpose. I don't believe that we are sent through bad experiences to suffer. We are sent through those experiences so that we can share what we learned on the other side of it to people who are in similar situations. And so that's what I have dedicated my life to.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. Like, it's our life. I think of our life as like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And each part of it make the whole picture. Yeah. It make our whole life. Like, person you see here, person help you there, and person here, and someone said something to you, someone come to you. It's all come together for our life story. And as you said, each one of us have the power to rewrite their story. They have the choice either to limit their sight and don't see the opportunities. We have multiple infinite opportunities in front of us, but some people, they don't want even to see them because they block their sight. But you had the power to unblock and continue in your life. And when you share your story, you give hope to people that they can change. Yeah. That's the power of story. That's the power of sharing. We connecting with each other, and we know that it's possible to change our life, even if there is infinite worse things can happen to us. There's still hope that we can change. And when you share this, you bring hope to people's heart, to people's soul, that we are here to make a difference in our life and people's life.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's tough. It is hard because, again, I believe as a society, we are so judgmental of people. We have a really hard time with second chances, and sometimes third and fourth chances. Sometimes people need multiple chances. But as a society, we're just not doing a great job of recognizing how powerful these experiences are for a lot of people. I don't believe anybody is content living in poverty. I don't believe that anybody is content living in addiction or living in whatever these circumstances are that hold people back. Nobody's content in them. Sometimes those experiences are just so powerful and so heavy for people that it takes them a little longer to chip away at the pain and the darkness to get to the other side. And that's why I think we have a responsibility that when we go through things and we make it to the other side, we have a responsibility to share it with people, because we can't keep thinking, we can't have people thinking, first of all, I'm not a unicorn, I think people are like, oh my God, she's amazing. I'm not. I'm not a unicorn. There's thousands of Tammys in our communities, right? There's thousands, hundreds of thousands even across the world and across the country. The difference is, I do believe that God did something special in my life, but I don't think I'm special. I think that there's many people who have had these experiences who just haven't had an opportunity to share their story or to have a platform where they can share that story and inspire others. But that's why I do it. You know, it's embarrassing some days. I mean, I tell these stories some days and everybody doesn't receive it the same way, you know. I work in, you know, in a space where sometimes I'm the only Black woman, I'm the only Muslim woman, you know, I'm the only woman for sure who's had these experiences. And, you know, I run an organization. I mean, I'm responsible for millions of dollars. You know, sometimes I go in these spaces and I can tell people are taken aback, you know, by my past and what I've experienced. But I think what I've done, and it's real, you know, I'm just recently getting to a place where I see the power in what I've been able to do. And I wouldn't waste that on keeping it to myself and pretending that it didn't happen and living in shame and living in guilt. That's ridiculous. That's not what God wants. He wants me to share it with people so that other people do feel hope, so that other people might feel inspired to just keep taking that step forward and just keep fighting and just keep trying to get to that place that they want to get to. And I mean, I remember the first time I started telling any parts of my story, I was trembling with fear. And I could barely talk because I couldn't stop crying because I was so afraid that people were going to judge me or that people were going to shut the door in my face or that people were going to look at me differently. And, you know, I was going to lose opportunities and I was going to get shunned, you know, and that fear was so strong and so palpable that, you know, it took me several times, probably several years of telling my story to get comfortable enough to know that you know, if people are judging me, then that's their stuff. That's not my stuff. It's, you know, they're not ready to hear those stories, and that's fine. But even if there's one person who hears it, who can take what they heard and feel like, okay, I can keep pushing forward. I can keep trying. I can keep trying to keep my heart open and trying to keep my soul open to possibilities. It's worth it to me. It's worth it. I don't believe that there's, first and foremost, there's nothing a human can do to me that is really going to matter. I mean, there's not much more that anybody could do to me that hasn't already been done. So why be afraid? Why not? You know, what really can people do to you? They can judge you, but does that really hurt us?
No.
They can shun me, but is that really going to hurt me? No. Once I realized that, it was like, oh, well, okay, then we have a bigger thing to worry about besides whether or not somebody's going to judge me. I am more worried about the person who is, you know, at their wits' end. They have given up or they're ready to give up and they just need somebody to tell them not to. And to me, that's more powerful than worrying about how other people feel about me.
It's amazing that you empower yourself to tell your story, because all the trauma, all the difficulties that we go through in our life, it makes us who we are now. If we didn't been through these things, we will not be the same person as we are now. And we need it. Like you said, some people need these experience, need these hard time to learn. There's life lessons that you cannot learn by reading books or by watching movies, or you need to go through it to learn it.
Absolutely.
So yes, so we and you help people to not judge, because judgment is it block people. It really block people.
Yeah, it's really a waste of energy because first of all, neither party gets, what do you get out of judging people? You don't get anything personally. There's no, you're not gaining anything from judging somebody else. And that person's they're not gaining anything from your judgment. If anything, you're taking away from somebody's spirit every single time you judge them. It's not our jobs to judge. Who do we think we are? It's not our job. Nobody assigned us to judge other people. It's not, they're not going to have to answer to us in the afterlife. Like, who are we?
That's so
Judge
true.
other people. There's
And it like you said, it's waste of energy. Like, instead of someone focusing on their life and how to make their life better, they look at others, what they're doing, and they start judging. It just waste of time.
such a waste of time. And what I've realized about most people is when they find themselves judging people, it's usually that they see themselves in that person.
So
It's
true.
usually the thing that we don't like about ourselves that we pick up on other people and we want to at it.
So
Because it's
true.
really us. We really should be directing that energy at ourselves to improve the things that we don't like about ourselves, and not even to judge ourselves though. Like, we should not be judging ourselves. We should be using our energy to pick out the things that we don't like about ourselves, or the things that we think we can improve on, and focus on that. I try to do that every day. Like, there's so many things about myself I don't like. There's so many things about myself that I have a lot of work to do with my own life to waste any time or energy judging other people. But what I do want to do is encourage other people, right? It's okay to, in a loving way, to say to somebody, I'm here to help you if you decide you want to change in that way. I'm here to help you and support you or point you in the right direction if you want to change that about yourself or about your circumstances. But I love you regardless.
Yes.
I love you regardless because you are my brother and you're my sister. I love you, right? It doesn't mean I have to like everything that you do. But I love you and I'm here to support you. And sometimes people just need to hear that. Sometimes people just need to hear it. You'd be surprised how many people are love deficient. There are so many love deficient people who, and we don't always look where I was like, oh, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with her? Why is she so, and well, a lot of these people are love deficient. And I just, this is what I was so excited to see. Sunday Smiles. Now that's something positive.
Thank
right?
you.
Something positive. People, who doesn't like a smile on a Sunday at that? Like, it's beautiful. Why can't we do more of that? Why can't we make deposits of love to people instead of always just focusing on these negative things? It's exhausting.
It is.
And I just choose not to do it.
Thank you. It's so true. Change is a choice. Change is a choice. We choose to change. And before, it was really hard for me to accept the people that I love, that they don't want to change. It's really hurt me from the inside.
Yeah.
But now I get to the point in my life, I just love them for who they are. They want to change or they don't want to change. It's their choice.
Mhm.
My choice, and I choose that I love them as they are and accept them as they are. They want to change, they don't want to change, is their choice. And I just love them and hear them and be there for them. As you said, just love them.
That's right. But it's also important to protect your own energy, right? You can love people from a distance. I tell people this all the time. We all have allies and accomplices in our lives.
Yes.
Once we start trying to reach certain goals and trying to change our lives in certain ways, there are people in your life who are either going to be an ally or they're going to be an accomplice. So I talk about this in the financial education work that I do. I know my friends love me, but if I'm saving money for retirement, which I am, because I can't wait to get on a farm and have a little baby goats, and all I want to do is play with baby goats and change their pajamas all day. That's all I want. And if I'm saving money to do that, even the people closest to me that love me the most can become an accomplice and against me trying to reach that goal by just being themselves. Tammy, we're going on vacation in a month. Do you want to come? Or we're going to the mall. Or, oh, I just saw these shoes that I think you'll like. Now they love me, but are they working against or towards my goals by trying to get me to spend money that I could be saving for my farm, right? Allies are people who will see me out about to either order food or go on some trip that I shouldn't be going on and say, I thought you were saving. You're supposed to be saving money for baby goat. That's an ally, right? So we can love people, but sometimes you have to love people from a distance, especially if they're bringing if they're bringing toxicity in your life, if they are working against your own personal missions or personal goals or personal values even. You have to do that sometimes with family and the people that are closest to you. People who are living in a way that is counterproductive to the way that I want to live my life. I love them, right? But I have to love them from a distance. It's really funny. I'm a new convert to Islam. I'm about 6 years. And I'm the only person in my family who's Muslim. I am the only of my closest friends who are so I've been on this journey pretty much by myself. And it's been strange. It's been strange. None of my children are Muslim. Inshallah, I can change that one day. But, they still celebrate Christmas and they still do, they still live in a way that is very different than the way that I live my life. And that doesn't mean that I don't love them. We love and respect each other enough, but they're like Ramadan is coming. Alhamdulillah. Everybody knows that when I'm, in Ramadan, that my life is very different than theirs. And that's fine. But, I've come across people even at work who want to have, a coffee meeting or a lunch date during Ramadan. And they're like, oh, well, why can't you just have a coffee? I'm like, because I can't. That's not how it works. So again, there's people who they can care about you and love you, but you can be on completely different paths than they are. And you just have to maintain your boundaries. And again, you have to love people from a distance at times. But I really truly believe, and I just got to this space, and it took me a really long time to get here. And sometimes I get sad that it took me this long to get here, but I am a priority in my own life. I am extremely selfish with my time these days. And that's tough for me because I'm a giver, I'm a nurturer. I am that person who never puts herself first. And I think that just comes from parenting. I've been a parent consecutively for 34 years without taking a break. I adopted one of my granddaughters 13 years ago. And so I've never had a break from parenting, and I've been doing it for 34 consecutive years. But now I'm a different kind of parent than I was when my children were younger. I'm a lot more selfish with my time. And I believe that we have to do that. I feel like we have to regenerate ourselves and re-energize ourselves so that we can give back to others. And we should be, and that's another thing the society tells women we can't do, right? Especially as parents. We're never supposed to be first. Well, you can't give what you need to give to other people if you are not full.
Yes.
If you are not in a space where you see yourself as valuable and you see your time as valuable. And it's okay to be selfish with yourself so that you can give back to others. And so, this over 50 thing, I'll be 50 this year. And
you look awesome. You look amazing. I hope when I come 50, I be like you. Fabulous.
Welcome to the club, almost.
I love it, right? And it's like this whole different person. Like I'm getting to know this new person, and I like her. I like her. I like feeling in control of my own life and knowing that, the better that I care for myself, the more that I can do for other people.
It's self-love.
Yeah.
I think self-love is the most important thing that a human being do to themselves. What
Absolutely.
you cannot pour from an empty cup. You need to be first in your life.
Absolutely.
Because how can you take care of other? How can you give if you don't take care of yourself?
Yep.
It's a necessity. Self-love is a necessity, like drinking, eating, shelter. It is a necessity in someone's life.
100%. But as women, we're not taught that at a young age.
No. Like
never
you need to sacrifice your life for your children, for your family.
everything.
Like, yes, you cannot have time for yourself. Why you're upset? You need a lot of work to do. No, this is
Yeah.
important. It's a necessity. It's not a choice. It's a necessity to love yourself, to care for yourself, to empower yourself, because no one can love you as much as you love yourself. I think even your parents,
Yep. Yes, agree, 100%. So I think we should normalize being selfish as women, right? We have to deprogram ourselves to think we come first and we are a primary concern in our lives, and other people don't come before us. Not our children, not our partners, not our husband. No, nobody comes before you other than Allah. And that I just feel very strongly about that. Just like when you get on a plane and they tell you to put your oxygen on first before you try to save somebody else, there's a reason they tell you that.
Yes.
You can how much of yourself can you give before there's nothing left? And so you have to preserve for yourself in order to be the best for other people. And
Yes.
I think this society, we've just gotten, this hustle culture, this work until you sleep when you die culture, like that's craziness. In order for us to be good people, I believe good people are good people because they value themselves first, and they make sure that they are maintaining something good to give back to other people. It's really hard to do that when you're exhausted and you're angry, and
blaming, shaming. It's really hard. Someone told me before, and it was recently, and it really made a lot of sense. They said that self-love, when you self-love yourself, you're loving God. Because God, He created you.
Yes.
So when you love yourself, you're honoring Him.
Absolutely. I believe that 100%. I believe that you cannot be the version of yourself that He created unless you're good to yourself, unless you're really, really, truly being conscious about caring for yourself. And I just think when you do that, you just have so much more to give to the rest of the world. And you can't do that backwards. You can't give everything to the world and give nothing to yourself, because then you become resentful, right? You're not really doing it from the heart. You don't feel good about it because you're tired, you're sick, you're exhausted, you're unhappy. I think happy people, I think happiness begets more happiness. It's really tough to be around angry people. It's really tough to be around negative, angry, sad people. It does, and I'm an energy absorber. So if I walk in a room and the energy's off and it just does something to me, and it drains me. And I'll be honest, at this age, I don't go around. If I walk in a room, if I walk in a room and it feels bad, I leave immediately. If I meet people and the energy is off, I avoid them like the plague. I just, at this stage in my life, I just can't go backwards. I just can't do anything other than what makes me feel good and what makes me happy. And I don't.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you. I love listening to you. It empower me. And every time I listen to your story, it feels so good. to hear how much strong you are and how much you empower yourself to become who you are. It give me, and it boosts me with energy, you know.
Good. I love that. I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you. So guys, do you have any questions for Tammy? Yeah.
I always do. Actually, I have a comment and a question because it's very interesting as I've listened to the things that you said, and a lot of times you hear the phrase, you can't give from an empty cup. And it's really not about the cup. The more I've listened to you, I realize that's actually not quite the right expression. I'm missing words here, because really self-love, if you can't love yourself, the only person on this planet you know, for all your good, all your bad, all your ugly, all your gloriousness, is yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think what it comes down to is if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else.
That's right. And you can't expect others to love you back, right? It's really hard to even see yourself as lovable. If I don't love me, then how can I expect other people to love me? I think, you know, especially for women, I think that's how sometimes we find ourselves in bad relationships, right? Because we're going into relationships not really expecting that other person to love us properly. Because how could they? How could you expect that if you don't feel that for yourself? And so we find ourselves in these spaces, in these jobs. And when I talk about relationships, I mean any relationship, right? You know, whether it's a romantic relationship or it's a relationship with friends or it's a work relationship, or if it's anything, how can I expect other people to love, respect, trust, protect, and secure me if I'm not doing that for myself? And, you know, and so I think we find ourselves expecting other people to do for us what we aren't even willing to do for ourselves. And that's when it all falls apart.
Yeah,
It's like self-worth. Like, you know, you cannot have self-worth if you don't have self-love.
Absolutely.
Like we try to, it's for myself, I tried to find it outside myself, and I didn't. It got worse and worse until I went inside.
Yep.
It's all inside me. Everything I need is there. It's
all there.
It all like in my heart, it built in my soul. So everything I need is inside me.
I agree with that 100%. And it's in there, and sometimes we can't find it, right? It's like diamonds, right? You have to polish them. You have to do the work to polish them to make them shine brighter. I think it's like mining diamonds, right? So it's all there. But if you're not cultivating it, if you're not caring for it, if you're not polishing it, and I think the way that you do that is you connect with like-minded people, right? You search for the things that are going to help cultivate what's already in you, whether that's religion or, you know, classes or books or art or these things that make us feel better, things that sort of fertilize the things that are already in us. But a lot of us don't even know these things exist. I spent a great deal of my life not even knowing that I had these gifts and talents and that I had these things inside of me because I just didn't see it. I didn't see it, you know, and it took a long time to be really intentional about seeing it. And I still have a long way to go. You know, it's a lifelong process, I think. I think you spend your entire life learning more and more about yourself and learning about how strong you are and how talented you are and the skills that you possess. And I think we should be constantly seeking those things out. We should be constantly mining those things. I'm hoping, you know, inshallah, I want to be 80, 90, 100 years old, still learning stuff about myself and still learning about the powers that I possess. You know, I want to hope that this is just me scratching the surface. I'm just scratching the surface. And I really can't wait to get to know myself better.
That's what happens when you turn 50.
Isn't it? I'm so excited. It's like, oh man, this is like these are literally the best years of my life. And it feels weird because remember hearing so many women like dreading getting older and, oh God, I don't want to. I'm like, this is awesome. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say too, I mean, that is one thing that I've one daughter who's 12, and from, you know, when she was born, I mean, that was definitely like a commitment that I made to myself to always teach her about that, you know, self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, which I unfortunately didn't have for a long time until having her. And it's really cool to see that manifest now. Now that she, you know, each year that goes by, how she internalizes that. And I always kind of teach her, like, you know, like, you love God first, then yourself, and then anybody else you want to love after that, I'm fine with it.
Right.
And then another thing I always like kind of tell her, like, when she does good things, and I'm like, one of the first questions I ask her is like, are you proud of yourself?
That's right.
And I said, it didn't really matter anybody else, me, whoever, but if you're proud of yourself, that's good.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. Because how many years, just think about all the things that we've done in our life that we did to please other people. Right. Even for like we even as a child, we did what we did as took a class, or, you know, we went to this after school activity, or we hung with this group of friends because it made our parents happy. Right. Or it made other people. I've been doing that since I was a little kid. I don't know how much I've done that's really been just for me. It really has just been very recently that I've chosen to do things that make me happy just because they make me happy, whether other people understand it or approve or not. It's all about me. Yeah, that's important.
I have a question for you, kind of about what we can do,
Mhm.
because you've obviously have a lot of experience talking with a lot of people. What would you say anyone can do that would help someone start to recognize that fact? Is it like something you can say, something you can do?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, we should all be working towards increasing our empathy. You know, because it's human nature. I think it's human nature um, to judge. It really is. It's human nature when you see people living a life or doing something, you're like, oh, I would never do. I mean, it's a human nature thing. I think we have to be really, really, really intentional about pushing those thoughts out and moving more into the space of empathy. Uh, and once we realize that we've prejudged and that we had to work on increasing our own empathy, I think we have to work on the people around us first, right? You always have to, I think, work from the inside out. You know, and there's so much going on in the world. There's so much, and we're so exposed to so much, and there's all these images and, you know, news cycles and all this stuff. And it just is we're in this time where we have access to so much information about other people. And I just feel like it's really important to try to have empathy for folks that we think may be different from us, when truly really we're all so much alike. um, and trying to put ourselves in other people's shoes, and trying to figure out, well, how would I have navigated that? Yeah, I would start with my own circle. Are there people in my circle who have these thoughts, or who process their implicit bias differently? You know, we all have these implicit biases, whether we want to admit it or not. We all do. And those biases go into every space that we go into. And some people are prepared to address them and acknowledge them and work through them. And then there are others in our immediate circles, maybe, who are not, and who are stuck in, you know, just judgment and bias. I say to every person, look at the person next to you, the person on the other side of you, look at your immediate circle and see if there's any change you can make, where you can share, you know, or push back against ideas that go against what we need to be working towards as a society. We have to start speaking up. We have to start pushing back against the things that we see are wrong and that we know are wrong. And somehow we just get silent. We've all had those moments where we wanted to speak up for somebody and we didn't, because we didn't know how, or we didn't feel strong enough, or we were afraid, or whatever it is. And I feel like if you think about how many opportunities you as an individual may have had to push back against a negative narrative and didn't, and then multiply that by 1 million or 2 million or 6 million, and think about how these ideas just continue to grow because nobody's pushing back at the right time. I think we all should be looking for those scenarios. Push back, speak up, stand up for vulnerable populations of people. Stand up for the people who we deem voiceless and who don't have the platforms and who don't have the courage or the power to share their experiences. Speak up for people. I always think about the kids on the playground, and you see one kid getting bullied all the time. Imagine if all the kids spoke up and said, we're not allowing that to happen when we're here. And think about how big that can get in every moment, in the workplace, in our communities, and in our synagogues and churches and all these places that we have power to speak up, and we don't for the most part. I strongly encourage people to do that, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's scary, even if we don't understand the other person's value system. There's been plenty of times that I have stood up for people that I didn't even, that their values did not align with my own, but they're still children of God. They still belong to Him, and that makes them our sisters and our brothers. And even if we don't agree with their lifestyle or we don't understand it, I think we have a responsibility to push back when they are being abused or mistreated or discriminated against. And that's just how I feel. I think we all can do that.
I agree with you. Thank you. And it's funny because you use the word fear a lot, and that was one of my questions, because I think a lot of what people do, or more importantly, don't do, is because they're afraid to do it.
Absolutely.
And I'm with you. I turned 50 last year, and I come from a family where we were already a little outspoken to begin with. But the older you get, my mom calls it losing your filters.
I love it. I've been doing it too. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait till you got 80-year-old lady that just says everything.
Well, and I'm like, and why do we wait? What is it that that's what I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around now, is like, why are we waiting? I'll admit I didn't wait till 50 to start, but I didn't start when I was 20 either. So, what is it about the way we're raised or what people tell us? I mean, Mom was a bit of a rebel. She still is. I mean, she's 82 and she's still out there teaching. She's still working. She's having fun. And, it's just one of those things where I would say that I was raised in a way that was probably not that common, where we were always encouraged and try this and try that. And yet I still see these bounds or feel those limits sometimes. But I've got a better toolbox for getting over them because of my mom specifically.
Yeah.
But, where did those come from? How did those get there? If my direct, and we lived way out in the boonies, so it wasn't like we were influenced by the, close neighbors and living in a neighborhood, and this is how it was. Those things still appear even when you are being raised in a very specific way to avoid stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think it's experience that tells us. And, I think the older we get, the more concerned about wasting time we get. I know I do. I'm very cognizant of time, much more so than I was when I was younger. Even, younger, I used to be late for everything. I was late for everything. And I had a professor once that wrote me into his exams as Tammy Too Late. That's how late I was all the time. And now, as an middle-aged woman, I am so much more cognizant of my time. I don't waste other people's time, and I certainly don't allow people to waste mine. And I think, we know that we have a limited amount of time on this earth. And I think, we've seen so much. We've experienced so much that we want to do everything that we can now to have an impact. You know, we want to have an impact. We don't want to be quiet anymore. We don't want to stand by and watch people be mistreated. And, you know, we don't know if speaking up is going to help. But I think what it does help is it helps that person know that they're not alone, that somebody sees me and somebody sees what I'm going through. And that gives me a little bit more strength to keep pushing back as well. So, you
It's
know,
the power of connection. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yes, yes, yes. And sometimes, you know, it sometimes people like have a really good environment, a good surrounding, but they choose different choices. It's because we get it from society. You know, we like sometimes we feel things, it's not even our feeling, it's people around us, and it just we pick it up. We pick up belief that it's not ours. We pick up limiting belief that it's not ours. That even it's not our family, it's like it's in out there. So
yeah,
we pick it up. So that's how we have this limiting belief in our system. And through our experience, we have the choice either to break through or to stay in and just keep limiting ourselves and play the role of victim, you know.
yeah,
Just give in and don't give out. Don't see that there is light or hope by playing. Some people love playing the role of the victim
yeah,
in their
yeah,
own story.
right.
I think that sometimes though plays into the empathy, sympathy bit, because people who are lacking in love often go looking for that attention in less healthy ways.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
that would be me. That would be the theme of my most of my life for sure.
Yeah, but even in becoming the negaholic, or you know, things that not those, you know, lesser on the scale of horrible things that can happen in life,
Mhm.
people push themselves in those directions just because they got a reaction.
Yeah,
Maybe felt like love, you know, somebody paid attention to you, somebody. So your comments about empathy are spot on. You know, teach people you don't need to have the negativity happening to give and receive empathy.
that's right. Agreed. 100%.
Yes.
So I'm loving this is amazing. I love hearing your story, by the way. It really does. You know, you stop and think. It really, and one of the things you said, especially in the beginning when you were talking about trauma situations, is when you're in that situation, you literally it's almost like you don't have the power to step outside of the situation and look at the whole picture. You're so focused, excuse me, on the day to day and surviving that day to day, and how, you know, how am I going to make it to tomorrow and then the day after.
Absolutely. And this is why I hate language like, well, why don't they just, or why wouldn't she just, or why didn't they just do that? Like it's so much easier for somebody on the outside of the situation to point and say, you should have done this, or you should have done this, or you shouldn't have done that. The person in the situation can feel so powerless.
Yes.
So powerless. You literally feel like you have no control over your own life. And when you feel that way, you can be swayed in any direction. You can be swayed in so many different directions because you don't have control. And not only do you not have control, you don't trust your own judgment. Right? You might know, right, deep down, of course, we were all taught the difference between right and wrong, right? And you're able to be able to pinpoint, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing that. But when you are in a situation and you don't feel like you have control and you don't feel like you have power over your own life, it is very easy to find yourself in situations that are the antithesis of who you are as a person. And I think that's why it's so important to give up this idea that we don't think about ourselves first. You better think about yourself first.
Yes.
You better think about yourself first, because nobody's going to think about you and care for you and love you the way that you will. Nobody will.
Absolutely.
So if you don't protect yourself, and if you don't always have a compass, an internal compass that is constantly leading you in the direction of love for yourself, you will be in trouble.
So true. So true. Thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you. So guys, do you want to get your paper to start the artwork?
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
So I'm going to guide you.
All right.
Let's first take a couple of deep breaths before we start.
All right.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath in my count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do this for a couple of breaths, 3 times. Inhale and hold it and exhale. I want you to feel love for yourself. Have the intention to love yourself more today. And you can open your eyes and have a pencil or a color. And today I want you to write the number 1 on the paper. And circle around it. And then you can create image or design on the rim of the circle that represent one thing need to take care of today. And while you're drawing, like, think of this. How does focusing on one thing at a time help ward off stress? What are you focusing on right now? How does the practice of taking tiny steps toward a goal help you achieve it? Are you able to take one day at a time, or if necessary, 1 hour or 1 minute at a time? Just for today. Guys, can you share with me what did you do so far?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Gratitude. I love it. It's beautiful. So pretty.
Thank you.
Very nice. Oh, I like it. So nice, Melissa.
Mine's just a chore. Today it's laundry, but I want to do it.
Love
As
it.
you see, it's a messy pile, then it's being washed, then it's being folded and put away on the.
Oh, that's cute.
So just
Nice.
went through one entire task the whole way to the end. And it's part of my one footstep for today.
So pretty. What about you, Kahinat? Very nice. Oh, I love it. I see faces. I like it. Very nice. Very nice.
I was trying to mute myself. Yeah, these are the 100 things I plan to do in my day. It was like, oopsie. It was like going for a walk and seeing the sunshine, the grass, the trees, talking to my friends, cooking pre-Ramadan, doing the tons of work I still have left to do from last week, cleaning my house, praying, reading, and going to sleep, hopefully. I'm hoping that.
I have to water my plants. I have to take 2 naps because I had that kind of week, and I have a lot going on this week. And you guys just reminded me to be extra intentional about loving myself today. And there's a book that I just got that I want to start reading. And I need to remember to water my plants today. That's my little plants need some love today too. So this was fun, guys. Thank you for this. Was awesome.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining us. That you can send me a picture later for your artwork so I can post it. But I hope you have a great week and see you in another Sunday Smile. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Abdiha.
Nice
Thank you.